Sometimes it amazes me I lived to tell this story. My husband and I were on vacation at a fancy all-inclusive resort in Cancun, Mexico. We were young. We dressed up and brought all of our best jewelry. Him, a gold Rolex, gold chain and bracelet. Me, my new diamond bracelet and beautiful engagement ring. Everyone was so nice our first morning in paradise, and at breakfast we met a nice young lady who took the time to stop and chat for a while. Later that evening we went downtown to the shopping areas, and we loved it. It was getting quite dark and we were starting to head back to our resort when that same super friendly young lady appeared and offered us a ride back to the resort. She was going there anyway. This was fantastic. Yes, we said. We hopped in her van and she told us that we had to make one quick stop. Was that okay? She asked. Of course. On the way, she told us various stories about the places we passed and told us the best places to eat. The conversation seemed really natural, but she managed to ask some specific questions, which looking back, they were off. Asking us why we were traveling, who in our family knew we were in Mexico, when they expected us back. With the language barrier, it was easy to mistake these as innocent questions about our trip. She pulled up to an insanely loud night spot with a home connected to it right next door. I mean, the music was loud. A locked iron gate surrounded the courtyard. "Come on in," she smiled and beckoned. We jumped out of the van and stood beside her. Her hands suddenly shaking uncontrollably as she unlocked the gate. We went in. She shakily locked it. We got to the front door and she opened it, ushered us in, and we were speechless to see a giant room. Not just any giant room, a giant white room. All the walls were white tiles to the ceiling. Along the wall was a giant sink, several hoses. The floors were solid white, with huge drain holes in several areas. The room was very well lit. We were standing with her, and she was shaking more than ever. Innocent, young, and confused, we stood there silently as she called up the stairs. "Julio, Julio, Julio." When she had no response, she hysterically ran up the stairs, only to find that the one door was locked. She screamed for Julio one more time, telling him she got business for him. No response. She stomped down the stairs and yelled at us, "Let's go," in a completely different tone of voice. She was angry, but we obediently followed her out to the van. Her whole demeanor had changed. She was mean and wild. She drove crazy away from the blasting music next door, speeding away for what seemed like forever. Then, she just came to a screeching halt and yelled, "Get out!" In the pitch black, middle of nowhere, we did again as we were told. It was then we realized our stupidity. Our lives had been spared from a slaughterhouse. The sinks, the noise to cover screams, the drains in the floors, probably all for our jewelry. Julio, the butcher, nowhere to be found that lucky night. We walked until we saw streets, took a taxi back to our resort in complete silence. We locked every piece of jewelry in our safe and thanked God for being spared. We never saw her again, but I'll never forget her. When I was 21, I went on a mother-daughter vacation with my mom to South Carolina. On our last night there, we decided to finish off our rum and coke and relax in the hot tub. Though it was dark, my mom wanted to walk on the beach and feel the waves come up on the shore one last time. As we walk the beach down to the water, my mom's quite a bit ahead of me. And suddenly, I see a group of people taking a nightly stroll. At first, I thought it was innocent. I I took my drink with me and was just finishing it off as the group of people came into view. Then I noticed it was a large group of young men, probably mid to late 20s, about a dozen of them. I realized that they were watching me finish my drink, and the beginning of the group had walked a little bit past me and then stopped, while the others remained in front of me, also stopped, meaning I was suddenly surrounded by them. I became very aware of every inch of my skin that my bathing suit was revealing, and I knew that they knew I was drinking. They also thought I was alone, since my mother was down at the waves and far enough away to seem like a third party. I went to walk between what I saw was an opening in the group, but as I did, 2 of these men touched me, grabbing my sides and shoulders to keep me in the center of their man-made circle. I told them to get off me, not to touch me, and they held their hands up dramatically, as if I was being unreasonable, telling me to calm down, sweetheart. They let me keep walking, but continued circling me as they did, trying to talk to me while I was focusing on my mother and trying to ignore them. It had only been a few seconds, but it felt much longer. One of the guys then grabs my ass from behind, and at this point I'd had enough. I go to turn around and confront the man, but another grabs my arm, pulling me closer to him, tightly. My back is against his front, and I realize I have no good angle to hit this guy or a way to escape. So, I scream as loud as I can. The men only get closer. Suddenly, my mom turns around, and she saw what was happening. I then hear a roaring yell coming from her direction. She's screaming, "Hey, you better get the hell away from her," and she's running towards us. Half of the group is thrown off by the sudden involvement of this woman, but a couple stick around, specifically the guy that wouldn't let me go. He tells the woman to mind her own business. This time, my mom's close enough that she doesn't need to use her words. She grabs one of my arms, pulling me from the man, while simultaneously kicking him right in the balls. He releases me, and as he hit the ground, we quickly stormed off the beach, back to our hotel and hot tub. We told the hotel staff about the men, asking them not to let them in the hotel. I kept glancing over my shoulder at the gates to the beach, expecting them to walk through. If not for my mother, I don't know what they would have attempted.